Hey guys, Andy back from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more Horus Heresy. So we're doing part 2 of the Solar Auxilia Battle Group box. The first one we did was the Dracosan Heavy Transport Vehicle. Really nice piece, have it next to the resin one still, which I probably should paint now that I've figured out a scheme, which I really enjoy. And I put in the comments what you guys want to see. And I think the two things you definitely want to see is a basic infantry, and you do want to torture me and make me do that horrible, ugly sentinel. So I'm going to do that. Not in today's video. Today's video is going to be the infantryman. I need to have a little bit of a break and psych myself up for painting that silly looking thing. So yeah, today is going to be all about building and painting a Solar Auxilia Infantryman. Now, when I built the miniature, my intention was to build a standard guy carrying a laslock and paint a basic trooper. But as I dug into the kits and I started to see all the different options, I got carried away as per usual, and I ended up building a marshal carrying an ornate pistol and a thunderhammer because the options were there. What do you want to do? So that's what I'm going to paint up in today's video, so I hope you're excited to see that. Before I get into it, big thank you to all my active patrons. You guys are awesome. Without you guys, I could not keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you're interested in getting involved with that yourself, there's links in the description below, access to a private Discord server, and an extra video every single week are just two of the awesome benefits of being involved. Okay, without further ado, let's get stuck into this infantry. Okay, and this is the miniature that I've constructed. As you can see, I went a little bit ornate, a little bit more ornate than a basic infantryman with his quite nice pistol. Looks kind of like an antique. I like it. And his thunderhammer, and even give him the awesome plume. So like I said, I'm going to follow through with the idea of using kind of my Krieg color schemes on this particular force, which means it's going to be kind of gray fatigues, blue armor, black boots, kind of dirty, war-torn. Like I've said before, my Horus Heresy army, my Imperial Fists, and anything I've done so far is all based around the siege. That's the most pivotal part of the Horus Heresy. Reading the books, it was the best series of books ever, was the Siege of Terra. I absolutely adored every single one of them. And that's definitely where I want to plant my military force, directly in the middle of that story. And with that in mind, I do not want polished boots, and I do not want clean armor, and I do not want fresh looking troops. I want these guys to be worn, torn, and haggard. And hopefully I can pull that off with these schemes. I think going for the less ornate schemes is definitely something that will help me achieve that goal. And if I had gold trim on every panel and everything was perfect and pristine, I think it wouldn't really suit me. Therefore, I'm going to lean heavily on the same kind of style that I went for with the tank, in which that all the armor panels are going to be blue, including the trim for the armor panels. The chest eagle isn't going to be the glorious gold thing. It's just pressed silver, even though this guy is a marshal who, like in the Imperial Guard, a marshal would be considered quite a high-ranking officer, and in the Solar Auxilia, a marshal is still quite a high-ranking officer, but there's billions of them. You know how many regiments of Solar Auxilia exist in the 30th millennium? Like, a lot. Deployed on Terra alone, there will be literally thousands of them. So if you think these guys are being fawned over by the uppers and they're being gifted polished armor and stuff like that, no. This guy perhaps earned his thunderhammer as a particular trophy for a good campaign on a particular world. But other than that, he is a soldier. He stands in the trenches with his men and he fights back the hordes of chaos. With that in mind, I'm going for basic contrasts for the base coats. Obviously, we've gone for Basilicanum Grey for the fatigues. The Space Wolves Grey was used for the armor. Black Templar was used for boots, belts, and all the cabling connecting his kind of powered-ish armor. It's not actually powered, but there is cabling going from his backpack to pretty much all the other plates. Flesh Tears Red was then brought in for all of the kind of fancier details. So he obviously does have his thunderhammer, so I'm going to give the handle of the thunderhammer nice and red. He's got that frilly thing that I can never remember, the military garb thing hanging off his waist, and then his plume I'm going to do in red as well. Do I think a red plume on a battlefield is a good idea? No, I think it's going to get his head shot off. But plumes are plumes, and he's a proud soldier. He wants his men to know where he is on the battlefield at all times, where they need to look to for the strongest source of encouragement, and for all the orders. A red plume on top of his head is going to fit that just nicely. Some gold detail, of course. He does have kind of like a line motif under his helmet there, under his plume there. So we're going to get that done in gold. There's pretty much not really any other details that are gold on him. I thought there would be more. I thought about doing more, and then I just didn't do it. I liked more the simpler style. Seraphim Sepia was then brought in, and this will just add the first kind of layer of grime. If everything is shaded with sepia, that means all the shadows are going to be like a slightly yellowy brown tone as opposed to a black or which, you know what I mean, I think it will make it look more war-torn and more grimy. It also works a treat on shading all these different details. People often question my shading choices. I do have some bizarre shading choices sometimes, and I always tell people to just trust me. If anything in this hobby I'm good at is knowing shades. I've been leaning on shades and contrast for years now. Shades even longer still, like a decade or so. And I promise you this is going to work out. From here, we're going to go to Basilicanum Grey and layer up the fatigues. Now, it's hard to see the fatigues there. He is wearing quite a lot of armor. So you're going to have to pick through all the buckles and belts and stuff that hold on his armor panels. And in and around his boots and all those kind of straps. And use Mechanica Standard Grey to highlight those areas. Now, unfortunately, these are beautiful plastic miniatures, so all the detail is super sharp, which means the process of painting it is not difficult. It's very easy to see where all the details are going to go. Okay, after the grey has been hit with a highlight, we're going to move over to the blue. Now, the first thing I do is the Fang, and when I was doing my traditional Krieg, I do their great coats in the Fang. These guys, they don't have great coats, and I wanted them to blend in, so I decided to do their armor panels in it. And the Fang did kind of what I wanted it to do. It just sat a little flatter than I wanted it to. I did take my time. I still did layer it as if I was doing two different tones on the trim and the flat panel, so I would leave the shading all around the edges. And I was quite careful to give it a nice kind of highlight job. Having said that, it did finish off a little bit flatter than I was expecting. And it did kind of encourage me to push that blue color up just a little bit brighter. I kind of left it to stew for a minute though. I jumped over to Lead Belcher, highlighted all the metallic parts that I needed to, his chest Aquila, his weapons, a Thunder Hammer head, and then obviously his ornate pistol, belt buckle, and I did little bits of detail still while I was kind of mulling over the blue armor. And in the end, I decided I was going to pull it up to the next stage of blue, so I pulled out Rust Grey, which is the next tone up from what I was using. And it was a little bit too bright from there, so what I decided to do is a 50-50 mix of those two colors, which is not something I usually do in my videos. I do not like showing kind of mixing paints or anything like that. I try and keep these tutorials as simple to follow and as easy to use as possible. But I decided to mix Rust Grey and the Fang together, like I said, 50-50, which just pushed that tone up a little bit. And then I did some kind of scratchier highlights on the flatter panels and kind of edges of the armor, which I think pushed it up just that little bit more where it looked like there was a lot of detail. I think it helped it out a lot. In retrospect, I might have gone back and done the Aquila in gold as well. I don't think the silver pops enough. And I think the whole center of the miniature is kind of one tone. I would quite like to see it done in gold. But having said that, this is this is the Marshal. All the basic infantry don't have Aquilas on their chest, so maybe it's better to leave it normal. Corvus Black was brought in, and I used that to highlight all of the, obviously, the cabling and straps and buckles and everything that holds his armor plates in place. He was really starting to come together at this point. Perhaps I should have painted a basic infantry with a Laslock. I mean, they are quite nice models. I do love doing tutorials with open posed models, so there's nothing obscuring the chest, which means it's easier for me to teach you guys what I'm doing, where the paint's supposed to go. Mephiston Red was brought in as the first highlight for the red areas. As you can see, I basically went kind of 2/3 of the way down the plume and then pulled it up towards the top with Mephiston Red, leaving a little bit of dark around the edge with the silver. So again, very quick, easy step. And obviously I followed through with the handle on the Thunder Hammer and the little ropey thing. Is it epaulets? As I don't know what they're called. Epaulets are things on the shoulders, aren't they? Evil Sun Scarlet was then brought in, and then we basically went 2/3 down Mephiston. So for the last third, we go for Evil Sun Scarlet and hit the very top of the plume. I just like it popping, really. Ever since I watched Troy and seen Brad Pitt dressed as Achilles running up that beach with that plumed helmet, I think I've been obsessed with those kind of style of helmets. Anyone who has one has got to be a great hero in my eyes. Okay, we got some Nazdrag Yellow. This is just a very simple, quick step to fill in the light on his shoulder. We want the light to be off, I'm not doing any object source lighting or any of that stuff. It's still going to be a kind of a yellowy lamp even when it's turned off. So I decided to go for a dark yellow with Nasdrag and paint that over the light. Now with this, he was still looking quite clean. So I did grab my weathering powder, same thing I used on the tank, but obviously in much less quantities. I used the powder stuck to the lid, a nice dry pointed brush, and I just painted that in some of the recesses and some of the edges, places where dust and debris will settle on a soldier, across his armor and chest piece, and obviously his boots are going to get covered in it as he's been stomping through. I probably should have put a bit more dusting around his feet actually on the ground so that the dust matches the texture of the earth. After that, I just gave the model a spray of matte varnish or satin varnish, the Minotaur varnish from Games Workshop, just to seal that powdered in, and that for me brings this particular miniature to a finish. I really like how he looks. I think a whole army of these guys would look gorgeous, supported by many tanks, many walkers, Titans, Space Marines, the Imperial Palace as a whole. A couple of high-res images just to give you guys an example of what he would actually look like on a table. Like I said, it's only because you guys asked me in the previous video in the comment section to paint one that this guy got painted. So if there is something specific in Solar Auxilia you want to see, let me know. I'm fairly sure I'm going to do the walker next. A lot of you guys seem to want to torture me and make me do it, so look out for that soon. Okay guys, and there we have it. One finished Solar Auxilia Infantryman ready for the tabletop. It was quite an enjoyable experience to get this guy painted up. It was nice to finally see a Solar Infantryman finished by my own hand that I am happy with, and I cannot wait to get stuck into more of these miniatures in the very near future. A lot of people have been giving out to me the fact that I haven't painted my resin army of them, considering how much money I spent on them, and I think there may be a project in the future where I combine the two and get them all painted up and perhaps play some games with them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. Ask me any questions in the comments below and I will get back to absolutely everybody. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all future uploads, including the rest of the videos that are based around Solar Auxilia and all future ones for Solar Auxilia when they do drop. And yeah, thanks for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.